The day's word is swing, and I couldn't think of a better thing to draw today than the thing that I draw every time I get, and that is Spider-Man. And it's we're going to be taking the inspiration today from this picture here. As the word is swing, I didn't want to just do a swinging Spider-Man. I thought this child and Spidey sort of looked really wholesome and kind of really something challenging for me to have a go at drawing in ink today. Again, we're not going to be doing any pencil sketching. We are literally going to use nothing but pen. Get on with that, and yeah, we'll start day in the background. We've got some Comic Historian, and because Comic Historian are really big fans of Spider-Man, we've got quite a bit to pick from. So if you guys want to choose a particular story that you have affinity for listening and watching to, and feel free to let me know in the comment section live today, or future videos, let me know what you want to listen to. But today's word is swing, and these guys were made in polymer clay back in the just before summertime in England. And yeah, these, if you want to learn how to make these yourself, they are completely magnetic. Again, they're on my polymer clay make selling board. Check that out over on Instagram. Definitely go and click that if you can see it in the description down below. Otherwise, feel free to try and have a go at these. These are for sale, and we'll be making more over coming closer to the winter time, so you guys can buy some over on the shop. But anyway, let's get on with some drawing and start day 6. No, day 9. I keep saying 6. But for day 1, we had the ring. Second day, we had mindless. Third day was baked. Fourth day was freeze. Fifth day was build, and you can see this one uploaded from the Minecraft that I do on mixer.com. They're all on playlists and stuff, guys, so go check them out. And we've got day 6, which was husky. Day 7 was enhanced, and day 8 yesterday was frail. If you didn't check them out, guys, they are all available. The only one that is not available, which I really am sorry about, is the word enhanced for the prompt 7. Yeah, prompt 7. You can't. You can see it here, but you can't see me. You can't watch me do that one live, unfortunately, guys, because that one had a hell of a lot of copyright just by listening to a audiobook of Blade Runner. So yeah, that's out of the picture. But this picture definitely is not. We're going to listen to Comic Historian, and I'm going to be getting on with some more inking with my favorite pens out of my pencil case. We're going to be using these ones. I more than likely will be coloring this in because, again, we'll be using this picture as reference. As you can see here is swing, and there's somebody swinging in it. So, yeah, I kind of worked. I was thinking to myself, when I first saw that word, when I first saw the prompt, I was like, you know what? I'm going to really look forward to trying to draw that. We'll see how well I do with these pens. Again, we've got my fine line pen, my Uniball 7.0. We've got the sketchies for the fatter lines. We've got Crayola for a bit fatter, but a little bit thinner at the same time. We've got these running out felt tips, which are good for shading, and a other one here, which is a Copic marker brush pen. They are okay. Some of them are running out. Most of them will squeak, so I do apologize if you don't like that sound. But you know, got to get done. We've got to get done. So yeah, let's just start because I got to get this one properly done. I don't want to mess this one up too much with my pen. As you know, guys, you can't rub pen out once you've done it. And you've got special pens, which I don't, because these are artist pens, and they don't rub out. So, yeah, let's get that playlist going. Let's get drawing, and hopefully you'll leave some comments in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, guys, my name's Blut084, BLUT084 Art and Games. I'm here every single day on YouTube, occasionally on Mixer, but every day and night over on Instagram. Same name, different place.
Welcome to the full story series. Here at Comic Story, and this is when we take a lot of our older videos and combine them into one giant video for you to enjoy and go through all of the videos. Now, this is the storyline of Amazing Spider-Man, written by Dan Slott, known as Worldwide. This storyline is taking place after Superior Spider-Man.
Please let me know if you can hear that okay, guys? But otherwise, I'm going to start.
Made him a fortune and made him super intelligent. And using this money and his know-how, his abilities as Peter Parker, he created a multinational company using webware, which is basically like an iPhone, and making a fortune off of that. He then tried to make Spider-Man a worldwide superhero. Now, this is most of the core storylines. We did chop out a few of the minor ones, but this is the majority of the core storylines telling the beginning of Worldwide all the way to the fall of Worldwide. But there is one...
I'm not really going to describe what I'm drawing, other than I would be drawing this here and doing my very best and be shading and doing all the other stuff with it. I may put a little bit more colour than I normally do, but we'll see how that goes once I've actually done the picture.
With great power comes greater storage speed and battery life. Welcome to Webware from Parker Industries, bringing you affordable internet, clear reception, and unlimited data. Anywhere on the earth, even in my friendly neighborhood. Webware, when you are ready to master the web from your pals at Parker Industries. As you can see, things have gotten a lot better since our last adventure in which Parker Industries was destroyed. It is now a multi-billion-dollar company, and Peter Parker is the head of it. With multiple technologies and contracts in the works, nothing can stop him now. Except the villains tearing up Shanghai. Spider-Man and Mockingbird are riding the Spider-Mobile at blistering speeds down the highways, on the roofs and the walls of the tunnels. Mockingbird explains the situation, that these individuals are members of Leo Sect, and they broke into the Parker Industries Shanghai branch. And now they're trying to make off with the secure servers used to house all of Parker Industries technologies. The exact servers that are linked to every global webware account in the world. Various cars are exploding around the Spider-Mobile as the villains destroy them, but the Spider-Mobile can do whatever a spider can, and it avoids them with ease. The villains didn't expect Spider-Man to catch up, and they definitely didn't expect the Spider-Mobile to be chasing them by driving on the ceiling as the people of Shanghai cheer Spider-Man on. He waves his hands at them as he's sticking to the roof of the Spider-Mobile as it drives at its blistering speeds on the roof of the tunnel, and he shouts back at them in Mandarin. "Thank you! I love you too, Shanghai!" Mockingbird takes a moment to let that sink in. "When did you learn to speak Mandarin?" Spider-Mobile sprouts legs and catapults Spider-Man and Mockingbird right to the front of the Leo Sect's car, and he jumps onto their hoods. "Hey pal, gotta look at your windshields? I can make them look real nice." He then hits the car with his new Zapper web shooters, shorting out the entire car, and then he web foams the car to brace it for impact. Mockingbird then grabs the Leo Sect members and begins trying to interrogate them, but the goon cracks a poison tablet in his mouth, preparing to die for his cause. And Spider-Man shoots him with the antidote, preventing him from killing himself. Mockingbird looks back at him. "Now I'm impressed." He then brings the secure drives back to Parker Industries, and we get to see his new life. He runs this organization with the help of Anna Maria, and they have multiple technologies that they've invented, and they even have a charity foundation known as the Uncle Ben Foundation. He also now has fake Spider-Man running around as him, keeping up the appearances of Spider-Man as Peter Parker can keep up the appearances of Peter Parker. The individuals are old allies of his, such as Prowler. Everything for Peter Parker is going well. That's not normal for him. He's even attending the wedding of his old mentor and one of his heroes, Max Modell. And they celebrate the wedding by presenting Max with a university named Horizon University. But as usual with the Parker luck, his spider sense goes off as Zodiac arrives informing everyone that they are the future. Prowler runs over, suiting up as Spider-Man, while Peter Parker tries to find a way to sneak off himself, but he can't. Everyone is looking at Peter Parker, the CEO. Prowler is good, but he's not the real Spider-Man, and the Zodiac have threatened the lives of Parker's friends and family. So he gives them what they want, his watch, which is linked to the Master Webware network. He's not worried, though. The entire network is encrypted, and Spider-Man now has 12 hours to find the Zodiac gang and get it back. He then turns to Sajani, one of his business partners, the individual who caused all of the problems before. "I know it was you that teamed up with Black Cat and then Ghost and Johnny. I pieced it all together from the security footage of our destroyed building. This is not happening again. Do you understand?" Yes. I'm glad we had this talk." The next couple of hours are hell for Peter as his entire board of directors wants answers as to what he's going to do about the Zodiac organization. He assures them that the watch is encrypted and he has Spider-Man on it. They shouldn't be concerned. He then leaves to go fishing. Spider-Man and Prowler track the watch to an underwater base, and using his new stealth technology, he hides behind a whale, and they sneak their way in with Prowler telling Spider-Man to shut up, no quips on a stealth mission. They pop up and drop the guards before moving deeper into the base, where they find a room of villains discussing their need to crack the encryption on this before the deadline. But as Aquarius raises her hand to declare that by the stars in the sky, and stops, because Spider-Man's camo has worn off behind her. That Spider-Man is some guy in the ceiling right there, isn't it? Y'all see that, right? They jump down and begin swinging. So much for stealth. The enemy team begins shooting lasers at Spider-Man, and they all just bounce off. Look out, here comes Spider-Man and his amazing spider armor. Pew pew! While they were busy though, Aquarius sent the encrypted files to every base over the world. She then presses the self-destruct button while laughing maniacally. Ha 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 ha! We've won this time, Spider-Man! Spider-Man and Prowler hightail it out of the base with Prowler asking why they aren't knocking out one of the bad guys and taking them with them. But Spider-Man explains, they knocked out some guards earlier, and they can only fit 2 other people on their ship. They can't leave them to drown. They load them up on the spider submarine and they begin to ditch the base just as it explodes. But this is all a part of Spider-Man's plan. He calls up Mockingbird and Nick Fury to inform them that it's done. Zodiac has sent the files to all of their bases with the tracer in the encryption. Spider-Man and S.H.I.E.L.D. now know the location of all of the terrorist bases. While S.H.I.E.L.D. is trying to track down the exact locations of the bases, Peter Parker went ahead and bought the Baxter building and renamed it Parker Industries. This infuriated Johnny, also known as the Human Torch, but once Peter showed him the monument that he made for the Fantastic Four, Johnny was a lot happier. While this was happening, Zodiac broke into the secure ship facility where they were keeping their prisoner, and they managed to kill him. Not because he revealed any information, but because he failed the organization. S.H.I.E.L.D. then launched their plans against the organization by planning a globally coordinated attack against all of their facilities. But they quickly learned that all of the facilities that they learned about were empty. They were all just dummy facilities. They were played for fools. During all of this, Spider-Man bailed on the op to rescue Aunt May from the Goblin Gang. Things aren't as bad as they seem, though, as Peter Parker explains. They may have gotten played, but they'll play these guys at their own game. And he apologizes for sending his personal bodyguard, Spider-Man, on a separate mission. He explains that they will use Spider-Man's facial recognition technology to track down the members of this organization. The question does come up, though. How can they track a gang that they've never seen the faces of? And Nick explains to Peter Parker that they lost their prisoner. Scorpio, the head of the Zodiac, broke in and killed him. But don't tell Spider-Man. He'll be upset. Peter is taken back by this news because he really is Spider-Man, even if no one knows that, but he decides to move forward with the plan. They don't need to know their faces. They need the technology to alert them the moment that anyone in their masks show up. And it's almost as if it was timed, because that exact moment that they hit the British Museum and they get the alert. Everyone runs off on the mission, but Peter asks the more important question. How did they get this alert since they haven't gotten permission to use the CCTV feeds in London yet? So Johnny and Anna Maria explain that they have no idea. Someone leaked the Parker nanotechnology into the CCTV feeds. But while Peter Parker is trying to figure out who authorized that, Johnny tells him that it probably should wait. They're going to need Spider-Man on this mission. Then the entire team comes crashing through the museum windows, ready to fight it out. And Mockingbird goes up against the Archer, while Johnny gets busy fighting against the other members of the organization. So Spider-Man runs in and corners their leader, Scorpio. But this is all a part of Scorpio's plan. He grabs the artifact and he hits the auto kill button on all of his lackeys. The poison pills in their teeth crack and they all begin to ingest poison. But Spider-Man takes that challenge. He won't let anyone die if he can help it, and he manages to hit all of the people with the antidote darts. He did it, except Scorpio got away. The battle isn't over yet, though, but for right now, Spider-Man wins. He went back to his company where he traced the nanotechnology CCTV signals back, and he discovered that it was somebody from the inside of Parker Industries. Since he can't figure it out, he assumes that it was Sanjani again. She is the one who staged everything before and even caused the destruction of the original building. He offers her no options. He tells her that he'll buy her shares, and she is now excused from this facility. What Peter doesn't know is that the memories and personalities of Dr. Otto Octavius have been showing up in the living brain. He also doesn't know that his largest investor is secretly Scorpio, the leader of the Zodiac organization. He also isn't aware that there is a bandaged man building a small army against Spider-Man. 3 weeks ago, a prisoner was being transported when a group of individuals teleport in above the prison transport led Cloak and Dagger. They quickly disarm and throw the prison guards off the ship, and then they walk into the cell telling their boss that they are here for him. And he replies by telling them they're wrong. He doesn't want to go with them. He doesn't have a choice, though, as something begins to take over. His skin goes jet black and his hair goes white. I'm back. Cloak and Dagger have just freed Mr. Negative from his imprisonment. He then steps outside to one of the guards, touches them, forcing them to do his bidding. His powers are mind control over anyone that he touches, and he is on his way to China. Meanwhile, weeks later on the rooftop of Parker Industries Shanghai, he's enjoying some pork and spinach dumplings from Lian Tang, his driving instructor and the pilot of the Spider-Mobile when Spider-Man doesn't need it. She's also Peter Parker's girlfriend. As he's called in for a business meeting, they drive off the side of the building and straight down, where he arrives at the meeting and he meets Qing Hao, and they discuss the burning of clean green fuel for the future. The fuel that powers the Spider-Mobile, and the research is headed up by Philip Chang. As they discuss the applications, everyone sees the police searching Peter Parker's offices, so he asks what's going on. It's an extra level of security for the celebration tomorrow since Mr. Negative is back in town. They also ask if Peter Parker can send his personal bodyguard Spider-Man to a situation in a construction yard where a worker is wildly swinging a wrecking ball around. He swings on over and catches the wrecking ball, naming it Miley Cyrus. He then starts singing the lyrics to Wrecking Ball as he flings the ball into a safe area while threatening the construction worker. The man tells Spider-Man that he had no idea what came over him, but seeing the patch and knowing that Mr. Negative is in town, Spider-Man has an idea what happened. He heads back to his office and he walks in as Peter Parker. But as he walks into his office, a portal opens up and in walks Cloak and Dagger. They explain that Mr. Negative would like to speak with Peter Parker. He dodges a few of their moves, confused as to what is happening, and then Cloak warps in Mr. Negative and he grabs Peter Parker. Now that Peter Parker is under his control, he will show Mr. Negative the proper respect by only speaking to him when spoken to. He then goes on to explain. During the celebration tomorrow, Parker will slip the shade narcotic onto Shang Qing Xiao. The drug will remove his inhibitions and the world will see him for who he really is. It will show the world his dark side. Cloak then drops Peter Parker back off in his office, but instead of being mind controlled, Peter Parker is fine. You see, Mr. Negative's corrupting touch only works on a person once, and he used it on Spider-Man back in Dark Reign, so it won't work on Peter Parker. Luckily, Mr. Negative doesn't know that Spider-Man and Peter Parker are one and the same. But now, Peter does know Mr. Negative's plans. So as Cloak goes to leave, Peter hits him with a spider tracer, and then after ditching his girlfriend on the roof of the building, he goes right to work tracking down Cloak. While swinging, he gets to work delegating at the same time. He calls up the police to request some backup, then he calls Anna Maria to check in on the company in London, and then the company in New York. While London and New York are going crazy right now due to Peter firing Sanjani and Harry having other obligations, Spider-Man gets to the factory where they are mass-producing the shade drugs. As he lands on the wall, and everyone can tell that he's there, he simply tells them, "Hey guys, I'm here. I'm the proverbial fly on the wall." And then he jumps in. But Cloak informs him that he was never funny, even before Mr. Negative turned to them. Okay, ouch, that hurt. The drugs begin flying through the air as Cloak begins to flee, and the drugs begin to stick to all of the guards. Alright, that was actually pretty smart, but a completely evil move, Spider-Man says, realizing he is now surrounded by crazed individuals. Meanwhile, Mr. Negative is talking to himself. You see, Mr. Negative is also a normal man named Martin Lee. He changes back and forth, and right now he has Martin Lee chained up while Mr. Negative is feeding him a speech through the TV where it's been pre-recorded. He explains that while they are polar opposites and they normally argue over their goal, this is one goal that he thinks that they can agree on. The crime boss that started all of this and wrecked Martin Lee's life has become old man Shang Kwang Hao. And through some shady deals in the government, he has gone from being a crime lord to China's greatest humanitarian. If Martin Lee agrees to stop fighting with his evil half, they can stop Kwang Hao together. Martin doesn't need to think about it. All right, I'm in. Back in the factory, Spider-Man is whipping everyone to the walls while trying to dodge Dagger's daggers until she finally hits her mark, throwing him to the ground. Cloak and Dagger begin to approach the now beaten Spider-Man as he begins to apologize to Tandy, and then kicks a box of the drugs onto her. She begins going crazy, so Cloak has to grab her and teleport them both away. Spider-Man then gets to his feet, remembering that he still has a tracer on Cloak, and Mr. Negative still thinks that he has Parker, and Parker now has a general idea of where the base is. For once, Spider-Man is holding all of the cards. This doesn't make sense. This is Spider-Man. It's all supposed to go wrong. Meanwhile, Lian Tang is standing at the bedside of her mother, and she calls up Scorpio, the leader of the Zodiac Gang. If you want to see Spider-Man's first run-in with the Zodiac Gang, then check out the last video in this series linked down below. Miss Tang asks him for more of the experimental drugs that are easing her mother's pain. Scorpio tells her that there are only so many times that she can supply the security codes to the building to him, revealing to us that Miss Tang is the one that gave up the access codes in the last adventure. Really should just watch that last video. She tells Scorpio that she'll give him something more, the Spider-Man. And then she walks in to see the one thing that stands a chance against him, the Spider-Mobile. The next day, Peter Parker tells the world about his new green fuel at the celebration as he goes upstairs to give the award of the Humanitarian of the Year to Kwang Hao. He then walks over with Mr. Negative watching from a TV and hands Mr. Kwang Hao the award. And nothing happens. Mr. Negative is confused. That dose of shade should have been near lethal. Realizing that something is wrong, he has Cloak teleport everyone there, but don't worry, it was more than enough time for Spider-Man to change into his costume. Mr. Negative warps in, shouting that Parker has a lot to answer for, when all of the members of the police force raise their guns. And that's when Mr. Negative realizes this whole thing was a trap. Spider-Man jumps right in trying to tag Cloak, but he teleports away. And it's a good thing that Spider-Man put the tracer on him earlier because that shot follows Cloak and removes Mr. Negative's hold on him. Looks like you just lost your ride, Mr. Negative. During the confusion, though, a stray shot shoots Kwang Hao, revealing that he was wearing a bulletproof best. Spider-Man is actually proud of himself. Every angle is covered, and it looks like he's going to win without any real problems until the Spider-Mobile comes crashing through the wall, grabbing him. He whips out of the building and into the city. He looks so surprised that Leon is attacking him. Back inside, Cloak grabs Tandy and changes her back to normal as well, leaving only Mr. Negative in the building. Then back on the side of the building, Spider-Man is trying to dodge Leon while Mockingbird calls him to inform him that she found who Parker Industries' mole was. Let me guess, Leon Tang? How did you? Oh, wild hunch. Well, she's working for Zodiac because Scorpio is supplying her mother with experimental drugs to save her. Well, that seals it. There's no larger motivation than love. Realizing that he's lost, Mr. Negative tries one last thing and he touches Kwang Chao, making him one of Mr. Negative's slaves, and then he sends him out the window. Spider-Man on the side of the wall is trying to convince Leon that this isn't worth it when they both see the man go flying past them as he is jumping to his death. Leon moves the Spider-Mobile and catches him, but then the Spider-Mobile begins to slip off of the building, so Spider-Man whips up its legs and holds it tight, but it's too heavy, and they all begin to plummet to the streets down below. Leanne, don't worry, we're gonna be okay, Spider-Man shouts, and she shouts back, how? Because Spider-Man's spidey sense isn't tingling, which means that Cloak teleports in right below them to catch it because there was no immediate danger, and he teleports everyone back to the ground below. It's good to have your friends back. Everyone lands on the streets, and Spider-Man walks over to Leanne. She is a Met. She wants to know, is she fired? Is she going to jail? Just tell her mom that she will be, and Spider-Man stops her. He understands why she did it and why she was the mole. Maybe she can dig up some dirt for the good guys now. With that resolved, he walks over to Cloak and Dagger, and they all teleport to Mr. Negative's base of operations as he's already fled the scene of the crime. But they don't discover him. They only discover a message left for them by Martin Lee, stating that he is the same as Mr. Negative now. He wants his revenge. And if they are smart, they'll leave him alone. So they all move back to the rooftop, where Spider-Man asks them, you guys want to get some dim sum? Our story begins with Nick Fury paying a visit to Peter Parker, who works in the Baxter building now. Peter's guards stop Nick and tell him that he needs an appointment. Spider-Man appears over Nick and tells him that he's got something to tell him, and he's going to love it. Spider-Man tells the guards not to worry, and Nick goes with him. Then
okay, it's not looking too bad. It's not looking great, but there's certain bits in there that... give me a second.
This way to the secret elevator.
There's certainly bits in there that I don't like, but let's have a quick look at my reference. And that's what I'm drawing it from. And that's what I've drawn. I mean, certain bits are okay, certain bits are not. But if I was sketching, I could reform all of that and change bits where I think, you know, that doesn't look that great. The feet's bugging me, but I think because of the angle that he's sort of swinging, it doesn't look too bad. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section, guys. So have a quick stare at this picture again while you listen to this.
Once the two of them step towards it, Spider-Man gives Nick a spacesuit, and Nick looks down at it and he asks what's going on. Spider-Man explains that they're going into space to reactivate the SHIELD satellite that Scorpio hijacked. So, to the Arachno rocket over in Paris, one of Scorpio's men, Gemini, has called in to inform Scorpio that Spider-Man has made a move towards space. Scorpio asks how this could possibly happen, being that Gemini has the ability to see into the future by one day. Gemini tells him that his...
Oh dear, has that run out? Yeah, that's just run out. Okay, that's no problem. I'm going to have to use my phone now, guys, if you want to listen to some more of that. I did think it was going to run out quickly. That's okay. I've got my phone here ready. Hello. Well, it's not. I don't need you. I've got my phone here, mate. You keep your phone for you're in bed, aren't you? You need your phone to text me. Na 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 na. No, to the library. That's where we were.
As Spider-Man begins to move closer to the satellite, and he already knows how to handle this. As Nick Fury and Spider-Man reach the satellite, Spider-Man says that his sensors are going off like crazy, and when they turn, all of the other satellites that Scorpio hijacked are flying right at them. Nick tells Spider-Man to get to work while he begins blasting all of these oncoming satellites, but Spider-Man finishes locating the relic that they are searching for with the hijacked satellite. Nick tells him that there's one more satellite that he kind of couldn't get. It's kind of big. Spider-Man tells him not to worry. He's got this. Arachno rocket to the rescue! Spider-Man uses their ship to crash into the remaining satellite. And that's when Nick asks, how are they supposed to get home? Spider-Man points over at the International Space Station and he tells Nick to go over there. Spider-Man's found traces of the relic, which is currently in Paris. He's gonna go directly down there. So Spider-Man begins to descend back to Earth, literally in a spacesuit, and that's it. As he's falling and re-entering the atmosphere, he begins to realize that maybe this wasn't such a good idea. And as he continues to fall and his suit begins to get destroyed in the process, he calls up Anna Maria, who runs the London headquarters of Parker Industries. And he tells her that he's kind of going to need a little bit of help. She asks him how. He's currently in New York. And Peter Parker tells her that he was, but then he was in space, and now he's in Paris. So could she bring him an extra suit? No rush. As he begins to pick up speed and his web parachutes begin to burn up, he starts to cover himself in a ball of web. And he begins to think that this should work, right? Should totally work. And then he comes crashing back down on Earth, and he thinks, yes, he did it. He has a bit of a large bruise, and he broke his suit, but he did it. He crash landed back on Earth. But before long, a green light begins to shine through, and soon a hole is blown open in this ball of web. And as Spider-Man lays there, Scorpio himself stands over him. Spider-Man politely asks Scorpio if he can just give him a second. He just kind of fell from space. And Scorpio explains that he kind of knew where he was going to fall. He also knows that Spider-Man is out of web fluid, and he has no gadgets that can help him right now. Scorpio then blasts at him, but Spider-Man says, well, guess what? I still have my sense, speed, and strength, and even without those things, I'm still Spider-Man. They begin to battle it out. Scorpio says that all of this is useless. He has the Zodiac Key. But Spider-Man tells him that there's kind of a flaw with the Zodiac Key, and he punches Scorpio right through the hole in the key. But Scorpio gets back up. He tells Spider-Man that he knows his weaknesses as well, and it's innocent bystanders. Using the power of the Zodiac Key, he tosses cars at people nearby. Spider-Man jumps in to save them, getting hit by the cars himself. Just before Scorpio can finish him off, though, he gets a call from Gemini telling him that he needs to go right this second. So Scorpio knocks a person off of their motorcycle and he escapes, but not before Spider-Man shoots a tracer onto Scorpio. Spider-Man yells, yeah, you better run. There, that showed him. Yeah, me. After a short while, Anna flies over in their hover car to pick up Spider-Man and give him his supplies. While he starts changing, they find that Scorpio is traveling by train somewhere else, so they begin to give chase after him. Once they get aboard the train, Scorpio starts to hijack the train by placing Zodiac masks on the conductors. Just as he finishes converting the second conductor, he hears Spider-Man over the intercom informing them that there might be a terrorist aboard the train. But don't worry, Spider-Man's on his way. Anna flies in close to the train and Spider-Man jumps on board, but Scorpio is already waiting, and he blasts Spider-Man as he lands. He tries to fire a web at him, but the winds begin to blow the webbing all over the place and not towards the target. So Spider-Man tells Scorpio, guess I can't get a good shot either. Is that a stalemate? But Scorpio replies to him, no. Remember, I know your weaknesses. And he shoots above the train, causing various rocks to fall on Anna. Spider-Man jumps back to try and save her, but the falling rocks cause Anna to spin out of control and crash into the ground. Even though the car is damaged, they are able to fly away, but while Spider-Man is trying to figure out his next move, the robot brain asks, why were you even in space anyway? And that's what he remembers. He was tracking the traces of the artifact. He remembers where he has to go. Anna begins to fly where Spider-Man tells her to go, and when they reach the home of where the traces came from, Spider-Man begins to remember this house. This is the house of Vernon Jacobs, one of Parker Industries' biggest shareholders and investors. And judging by all of the star charts and Zodiac-themed sculptures, it's probably Scorpio. Spider-Man begins to go deeper into the house, and he realizes that Scorpio was using Parker Industries' resources to do God knows what. But there's so much for him to go through, that Spider-Man might be a little too late. What should he do? So Anna tells him to ask for help, and he responds with, well, kind of just did. But she tells him, not her. If Scorpio can use the company, so can Spider-Man. So Spider-Man begins to call in some of the company's greatest individuals as holograms to look over this facility. The team looks around and Spider-Man tells them, all right, their boss wants to know what they found. But before they can really go into their findings, a hologram of Scorpio appears. He now reveals himself to be Vernon, and he tells Spider-Man that it was actually him, with the power of Gemini, the individual that can look one day into the future, who built up Parker Industries to what it is now. So Spider-Man can go ahead and tell Peter Parker that all of those profits helped fund the Zodiac Group.
Spider-Man tells him that he's gonna stop this. The Scorpio tells him he really shouldn't cross him, because with a snap, he can bring it all down. Wealth, fame, power, all of it gone! Spider-Man responds with, he isn't sure what Scorpio is planning, but he knows it's big. So he and Peter are ready to lose it all and take him down. Spider-Man's team begins to try and find the location of where Scorpio went, but nothing is turning up. So Spider-Man stands with Mockingbird on a rooftop and he tells her that they're pretty much hosed. Spider-Man just needs a sign and he can work with that. Over in Greenwich, London, Scorpio begins preparations with the orrery, the relic that he stole in the Zodiac Key. And as they're revealing at this moment, this is the date of the Holy Alignment, the time of his ascension. Just as the orrery begins to emit a bright green light of power, the Zodiac begin to chant that they are the Zodiac. They are the future. Back with Spider-Man, he notices something in the sky, and that's when he sees a sign. Back over with Scorpio, those green pillars of light come down and begin to carve into the earth, finally revealing the doorway that Scorpio was looking for. But Spider-Man appears, telling him that he's here, and he's going to be interfering. Spider-Man, with the help of Mockingbird and Brain, start taking out those Zodiac masks, and Scorpio tells him this is impossible. How did you find me? Spider-Man tells him with the help of Nick Fury back in the space station. He was sending Morse code down at this location. Scorpio tells Spider-Man it doesn't matter. Today is the day of my ascension, and with my key, I'll be unstoppable. He then slams the key into the ground, leveling everything and everyone by him. Scorpio then takes off his mask and he begins to head towards the door that the orrery has created. And he begins to state how no one thought what this giant key was actually for. Spider-Man then jumps in and pulls Scorpio's cape over his face, and he tells Scorpio that he has an all-new move, Armpit Punch. He then punches Scorpio in the armpit, forcing him to drop the key. Spider-Man then says, yada yada extension, blah blah, key to destiny. What happens if someone else gets there first? Scorpio yells out, no! But that's all Spider-Man needed to hear. He goes down, sees the door, and he realizes, oh, what's a giant key for? A giant door. But before Spider-Man can put the key in, Scorpio runs in after him and summons the key back to him. Spider-Man tries to block the passage, but Scorpio tears through it, knocking Spider-Man out of the way. He then begins to put the key in and open the door, and finally, Scorpio receives his reward. This door can show someone the future up to an entire year. Spider-Man charges at Scorpio, and he tackles him in the back. Scorpio begins to fall into the door, so Spider-Man shuts the door. Once they're closed, he locks the door. Outside, everyone begins to snap out of Scorpio's trance, and Bobby is assuming that Spider-Man took out Scorpio. Spider-Man says, yeah. So she asks, well, where is he? Honest answer, I smacked him into next year. You're being serious, aren't you? For once, yeah. She walks over and yoinks the key from Spider-Man and tells him that this is going back to S.H.I.E.L.D. Spider-Man tells Anna Maria that she just yoinked him, and Anna tells him that's because she likes you, Peter. Spider-Man asks, really? And Anna Maria tells him, shh, watch. Then we can make her jealous. And Anna holds onto Peter's arm, and everyone walks off.
Nah, this sucks.
Peter Parker gets ready to go on stage to promote his Uncle Ben Foundation. But while Harry assists him with his tie, Harry notices that there is someone else here, Mary Jane. Peter asks her what she's doing, and she tells him that she's making an entrance. But actually, she's here to work with her new boss. Peter begins to ask what happened to her old job, and then he stops and asks, wait. New boss? Before Mary Jane can answer, though, Tony Stark steps in. Peter says, hello, Tony. And then he realizes new boss. Tony asks Peter if he and Mary Jane know each other. And Peter tells him, yeah, we all lived together in the Avengers Tower, Tony. Don't you remember? You helped me build the Iron Spider suit for Spider-Man? Nope, Tony tells him. Tony then goes on to state that being Tony Stark, you meet so many people. It's hard to keep track of them all. And with that, Peter has to start getting ready to promote the Uncle Ben Foundation. So Tony and Mary Jane head off to their seats. But before sitting, they meet Augustus Roman, the CEO of Empire Unlimited. Mary Jane asks if they've met before. Tells her, certainly not. I would remember. A short while later, Peter gets on stage, but before he can go into his speech, claws begin to appear behind him, and through the wall, Ghost, the corporate espionage supervillain, jumps out telling everyone that he sees what everyone is doing. Everyone here has been feeding off the poor and the disenfranchised, but none of them are worse than Augustus Roman. Ghost then begins to charge his attack, and he blasts Augustus, knocking him down. Peter Parker and Tony Stark both suit up, and they swoop in to stop Ghost, but when the two of them jump out of nowhere and they begin attacking, both Peter and Tony argue about who is going to stop Ghost. They begin to bicker back and forth that Spider-Man's better than Iron Man. But no, Iron Man's better than Spider-Man. And Ghost begins to ask, are you guys being for real right now? Mary Jane and Harry run over to Augustus and they help him up, but Augustus tells them, I will be fine. Harry then tells them it's the least that they can do. Someone saved him and his family a few nights ago, so we should pay it forward. Peter and Tony, as Iron Man and Spider-Man, continue to argue over who should take down Ghost. And that's when Peter mentions that Parker Industries is way bigger than Stark Industries. And Ghost kind of agrees. So he'll blast Spider-Man. Ghost begins to escape and Tony gets chased, but Tony's attack doesn't seem to be doing anything to Ghost. That's when Peter returns to the fight, and it's the same thing. His attacks don't seem to be doing anything. Ghost states that he has seen their attacks before, and he prepared for this, even for Spider-Man's new move, because it was posted on YouTube. Peter and Tony follow Ghost, and Peter begins to ask if this is the part where we actually team up. And Tony tells him, yeah, we should do that. So Spider-Man shoots one of his web coils through Ghost. Tony then grabs a hold of it and begins to electrically charge it, causing it to vibrate. The shock goes through Ghost, and it begins to fry his defenses. And finally, he falls to his knees. Spider-Man says, look up, we're at the Midtown Manhattan Library. It's where they did that scene in the Ghostbusters movie where they crossed the street. Kinda like we just did, Iron Man. Later in the cellar of the super prison for super beings, Betty Brant is interviewing Augustus about his prison. Augustus goes on to state that he's proud of the facility's perfect record for not having a single outbreak. And he also states that he wanted a place where these super beings could be controlled because no one should have to lose their family like he did. As the interview concludes, Augustus walks back into the back rooms of the prison and past rows of people in test tubes. And he soon puts on the Regent suit, telling Dr. Stillwell that they will be preparing for the next phase because the world would be safer if he had all of the world's superpowers. Later, Peter and the others in his office watch reports of a new superhero named Regent stopping the villain Orca. Peter tells Harry that it looks like he's man-crushing over this Regent guy. And then a voice tells Harry not to worry, she will save him. Betty Brant walks in and Peter tells her it's been so long since they last saw each other, but why is she here? Betty says that she's just here to grab lunch with Harry and catch up on things. Betty then asks Peter if he'd like to come, but Harry tells her no, Peter is the big boss, busy with meeting spreadsheets and pie charts. And then whispers to Betty, what were you thinking? As they leave, Peter goes back to his office. All of his workers begin to ask him for approvals and for him to look over this and that. But Peter tells everyone actually he has to leave for his Big Brother program, which is sort of true. He actually needs to go check on Miles Morales, a younger individual with spider powers taking the name of Spider-Man. Peter heads over to the batting cages where Miles is at, watching him web the oncoming balls, yelling, pew, pew, pew! He then lands and he asks, what did I tell you about that, Miles? And Miles tells him, I know, it's whip, whip, whip. But as Peter looks over, he asks what he's doing here. And Tony Stark is all suited up as Iron Man, stating, don't mind me, pretend I'm not even here if that's even possible. Miles says that he and Tony were just getting back from an Avengers meeting, and Tony wanted to test out the new web shooters. Peter then asks, what's wrong with the web shooters that I gave you? And Tony tells him, that guy Peter, good guy, but he has terrible design work. You see, Tony Stark, who is Iron Man, is unaware that Peter Parker is actually Spider-Man. Miles, realizing that Tony just insulted Peter Parker to Peter Parker, realizes that this is not going to be a good thing. And that's when Tony offers help Spider-Man with his web shooters. Elsewhere, with Harry and Betty, the reason they didn't want Peter to come along was so that they could have lunch with Mary Jane and not have a scene. Every time Peter gets near Mary Jane, old feelings come up and things seem to happen. Betty begins to talk about how her interview with Augustus went, but when Harry looks at the paper, he notices the logo for the prison, and that's when he remembers something. The other night, when he and Mary Jane helped Augustus up with the attack from Ghost, he had the same logo on his clothes. That's when all three of them realize that, yep, Augustus is totally Regent. Back at the batting cages, Tony continues to make fun of Peter Parker, and he tells Spider-Man that if he wants, he can come work for him. When things go crashing down for Parker, Miles then holds his face in his hands, and Peter turns and punches Tony right in the face. Tony asks him, what's your problem? And Peter tells him, it's company loyalty. Miles tries to break up the fight, but the two of them continue knocking each other around and flying all over the place. Seeing all of this on social media, Augustus is watching and he tells Dr. Stillwell that now is the time to begin the next phase. Miles decides to let Peter and Tony work out their differences, and he decides to leave, but as he swings away, he discovers that he's trapped in a red bubble. At that moment, the bubble pops, and Miles comes crashing down into an alley. Miles then sees Regent in front of him, and he tells him, so not cool, you're a hero, right? So what are you doing? Augustus tells him, I'm saving the world. Back over the batting cages, while Spider-Man and Tony are still continuing to fight, they hear an explosion, and they both call out to Miles. They rush over to where the explosion was, and Peter finds a piece of Miles' chest piece ripped up on the ground. Over in the cellar, though, of the super prison, Miles is hooked up to one of the test tubes from earlier, and that's when Regent tells Dr. Stillwell that this is a big important step that they've taken today. Right now, he doesn't have the time. Augustus then heads back up to the top floor of the super prison, where he sees Betty Brant, and Betty tells him that she'll just cut to the chase. Are you secretly Regent? As time passed, one by one, Regent began taking down all of the Avengers and acquiring their powers, even that of Thor's. After returning to his super prison cellar with his latest Avenger, Thor, Dr. Stillwell tells him that he needs to be careful with that suit. She doesn't think that he or the suit can handle another fight as of now. Augustus begins to take off the Regent's suit and he makes his way back to the upper levels of the prison, and he tells Dr. Stillwell, "Do not worry. As of now, the suit will be given a rest. There are things that only Augustus Roman can handle, starting with my first meeting with Mr. Osborn." Over at the Avengers headquarters, Tony and Spider-Man continue looking for Miles, and they're having no luck. Jarvis even comments that oddly, he's heard nothing from the rest of the Avengers, not even up here. When suddenly, through the window, Red Wing comes flying in. Tony realizes that it's not a good sign when Red Wing is alone, and when Spider-Man and Tony try to figure out what to do next, Spider-Man gets a notice on his webware. When he plays back the message, it's a pre-recorded message from Harry telling him that he's going to need help in the super prison cellar, that he Brand went missing, and he thinks Augustus had something to do with it. Mary Jane realizes why that is. She, Harry, and Betty all figured out that Augustus is actually Regent. Tony tells Spider-Man to web up and hang on, and then with Spider-Man clinging onto his suit, he flies out of the room. As he heads towards the cellar, Tony makes a comment about Regent's suit. The way that it's unfinished, it looks like he's trying to prove something. That's when a voice can be heard stating that, yes, he is. And that's that even heroes like them destroy cities with their power. Regent flies in, punching Spider-Man towards the ground, and as Tony heads down towards the ground, the fight with Regent begins. But there's something that he's seeing. Regent dodges everything like he has spider sense, and he stretches like he's Miss Marvel. Yeah, Regent definitely snatched up the Avengers. It's like he's using the super adaptoid's tech in an armor form. Regent begins fighting using all of the different abilities that he's been collecting until finally he knocks both Spider-Man and Tony into the ground. Mary Jane and Jarvis are watching, and Mary Jane asks if Tony has any of those spare suits like he did before. Have them fly in by remote control and all. And Jarvis says that he does, but only Tony can control them. It was a safety feature to prevent people like Ultron from controlling them. That's when Mary Jane gets an idea. She begins searching through the boxes from the Avengers Tower until she finds it, the Iron Spider suit. Jarvis is worried, but she tells him it's okay. She once wore an earlier version of Tony's suit, and she had spider powers during that whole Spider Island mess thing. Augustus then takes Spider-Man and Tony and prepares them to be brought down with the others and put into a tube. But inside one of the tubes, Harry's tank begins to fill with a liquid, and he tries to beat his way out. Without having any luck, he remembers that there's a new app on his webware that Clayton Rigg helped make from his tech when he was Flash. Harry pushes the button, and then a loud shriek begins to ring out from the webware device, and the glass begins to shatter. Harry picks himself back up and he tries to escape, and he calls into his webware for Spider-Man. Peter then begins to hear Harry through his webware, and he begins to wake back up. He tells Harry that he needs to stay strong and give up, and he won't.
Legs are a bit janky, but it's not looking too bad now.
Matter at this point. Do you think that you could escape my construct? Peter tells him no, but he knew that he had spider sense, so he wanted to create a little distraction so that his spider sense would be thrown off. And that's when Mary Jane appears, knocking Regent in the Iron Spider suit so hard that he releases his grips on Peter and Tony. As Peter and Mary Jane begin to battle it out with Regent, Peter stops and he begins to ask her, "Are you getting a weird feeling?" And that's when Mary Jane cuts him off and continues the sentence. Like this has happened, and Regent ends the sentence stating, "Before, but something's different." Tony flies in and asks, "Did it have more explosive missiles? Maybe? No? Oh well, I tried." And he launches in multiple missiles at Regent, blowing them up all over him. Mary Jane tells Peter to go on and help Harry. Her and Tony will handle things up here. So Peter makes his way into the prison, and he finds Harry struggling with some of the guards. After freeing him, he then goes in deeper, beating up more of the guards to rescue Miles. And then all three of them begin to break everyone else out of the test tubes. Back up on top, Augustus begins to lose each of his powers one by one as the superheroes are being freed. But before he can finish off Tony and Mary Jane, the ground begins to crack, and a second later, Augustus is surrounded by everyone that he has captured. With Augustus finally captured and locked away in his own prison, the lives of everyone begin to return back to normal. Peter figures that it's time that he spends more time with his family and not lose sight of things like them anymore, with work in the way. Peter invites Aunt May and her husband Jay and all of their friends to a coffee shop. Augustus lost his family and it consumed him. Peter didn't want that to happen to him. As everyone begins to have a good time, Peter makes his way through the group saying hi to everyone, and that's when he overhears Jay Jameson coughing. Everyone rushes over as Jay hits the ground, and Peter tells someone to call 911.
Down on the streets of Las Colinas, Rojas, Peter Parker and Mockingbird Bobby Morris are joined by Tarantula and Devil Spider as they raid the nation's greatest drug lord, El Foco Cuero. As the groups make their way through the tunnels, Peter says that his source is right. This isn't a standard spider hole. Bobby asks, what? No witty retort? Nothing? And Tarantula says that the previous Tarantula said that Spider-Man was always funny with the jokes. Peter tells them that there was nothing to laugh about down here. They've got work to do. The further the group goes, Peter tells everyone that they don't have the element of surprise. He'll have to be the one to take the lead. The spider sense should give them some warning that something is going on. And Bobby asks, what is your entire plan exactly? Just running headfirst in? Tarantula radios back to S.H.I.E.L.D. stating that she would like to take command of the mission, and Nick Fury tells her negative. Spider-Man stays in charge. Plus, he's the only one who knows where everyone's going. Nick then asks, are they going to know how they got this intel? And Peter tells them that someone owed him a favor, because just prior to this operation, that source happened to be the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk. Back in the tunnels, a group of goblins appear. Peter says, yeah, this is the right place, all right. The goblins throw flash grenades, and they blind almost everyone. Peter shouts, don't worry, I got this. Meanwhile, above on the street, a cloaked woman finishes planting an explosive along the street when some of the residents come out asking what are those things in the street. One of the boys says that he's going to go get one, and the cloaked woman screams for him to get back and starts to fire her gun into the air. Down below, the fight with the goblins continue, and Tarantula says that she thought that this impressive spider sense was going to alert them. Peter tells her, yeah, if you want out, that's fine. The spider pods are back that way. Bobby shouts to just stop it. She gets that he's not always a team player, but he needs backup on this one. Peter punches into one of the goblins and tells her no. He knows exactly what he needs, and it's not anyone who's going to hold him back or be in his way. Is that clear? Bobby asks, what's gotten into you? And Peter says that she has no idea what he's been through, what he's lost. He needs this win. He needs Osborn. Devil Spider jumps in, kicking one of the goblins, stating that he thought that they were supposed to be after El Facaro. You know, their nation's drug lord and gun runner. And Peter tells him that there is no El Facaro. There never was. It's Norman Osborn using another face with another identity. Just then, Vaquero appears with a machine gun firing, stating that he has gutted people for much less than breaking into his home. Back topside, the cloaked woman makes sure that the coast is clear of the remaining residents and then presses the switch, causing a massive explosion. The shockwave of the blast travels all the way back underground where Peter and the rest are hiding out. Vaquero makes his escape, and Peter spots a bag with pumpkin bombs and calls out to Devil Spider. After Peter tosses the goblin at him, Devil Spider asks what is he supposed to do with this guy. Peter says that they're S.H.I.E.L.D. guys. Take these men and get out. Take the pods. Don't wait for him. One of the field agents then looks at Bobby and asks, what do they do? And she tells them, do what Spider-Man says. She's sticking with him. As Peter and Bobby run on, she asks, what is the plan then? And Peter says that he has no idea. He's kind of making it up as he goes. While the structure behind them falls, Peter quickly webs up Vaquero and grabs him, continuing to run along the same path that he was going. A blast from behind throws the three of them into the pool room. And Peter says, well, last one has to do extra laps. More debris starts to come down around them, and Peter takes the bag of bombs to the bottom of the pool and arms them. He surfaces, telling them both to take a deep breath. The water wasn't brought down here in buckets. It would have to have been pumped in. But before Bobby can even ask, the charges go off underwater, sucking all three of them down into it. Peter shouts for them to close their mouth. Trust him! Seconds later, everyone is thrown through the sewage drain, and Vaquero shouts, you are both crazy! Peter says, come on, Norman, like you know crazy. And Vaquero shouts, stop calling me that! I am not this Norman Osborn person. Then Bobby asks, you don't think maybe he's not? Later at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, Nick says that this is not Osborn. Fingerprints, retinal scans, voice recognition, whatever he thought, this isn't Norman Osborn. Peter screams out in frustration, breaking the table. And Nick tells him, I hope you feel better. That was a spy table. Those cost more. Elsewhere, though, Norman Osborn, wearing Vaquero's face, says that it looks like the real Vaquero was almost killed. His face is now useless. As Norman walks further into his hideout, Dr. Dragovic says that he laid out many choices for him this time. And Norman looks at the wall of human faces and says perhaps it's time to show his true face again. It would almost be like a homecoming. The next day, Peter heads over to Aunt May's apartment where Harry and Betty are keeping Aunt May company while Peter has been away. He pulls Harry aside and tells him, look, I'm going to need you to stay a little bit longer. I've got something else to take care of. Later at JFK Airport, Bobby asks what's the big deal. Shouldn't they be taking one of Parker Industries' private jets to Hong Kong? Isn't there another one that they could take? Peter tells him that the plane is down for maintenance, and on his list of personal problems, he never thought having another jet would be one of them. While the two of them wait for their flight, Peter sits and says that he's got one. An evil clone of himself brought his loved ones back from the dead. It emotionally scarred him and everyone close to him. Bobby then takes a bite of her sandwich and says that she's time traveled to the Wild West, killed a cowboy, and his ghost went on to stalk her in the present. Oh, and that ruined her first marriage. Peter says, fine, you win. Later that night aboard the flight, Peter wakes Bobby up from her peaceful nap and says that he's just wondering, has she ever thought that maybe they could be together? Maybe dating or something? Aunt May leans up from the chair and says that if that is how Peter Benjamin Parker asks girls out, it's no wonder that she doesn't have any grandkids. Harry then pops up stating, well, technically he's still watching Aunt May, right? Once the plane touches down, Peter has Harry and Aunt May taken to get ready for their Uncle Ben Foundation charity event. Quietly, though, he says that this is supposed to be just the two of them here. Bobby tells him, don't stress about it too much. The lead said that Osborn could be in any of these cities. Peter says, yeah, there's only one way to find out, though. So the two of them suit up to Spider-Man and Mockingbird. And Bobby says says, keep in mind, this isn't like before. They do not have permission to be here. S.H.I.E.L.D. will not have their backs. It's just the two of them. They travel around the city, and Peter says that she's still a secret agent lady, right? She's got to know some doors that they can knock on to find a rogue international gun runner. Bobby says, well, she does have some ideas, but if Norman Osborn has been setting up shop in Hong Kong, then they might have to break a few jaws and bruise a few knuckles, but they will find it. A little while later, Peter knocks at the last guy and says that they were just playing Mahjong. Bobby tells him that this was a serious backroom gambling den. Peter then shouts louder, Mahjong! And Bobby says, yeah, that's what they play here. Peter then pulls Bobby aside and says that he's a little uncomfortable with all of this. Does it feel weird that they're only beating up Asian people? It's just that he's so used to beating up people of all races and creeds in New York. Bobby rubs her head, stating that they are in Hong Kong, but would it help if they went somewhere where people were in masks and that it could be anyone underneath them? Peter says that he knows it's a cop-out, but yeah, he'll take that. Moments later, at another gun den, Bobby finds a shipment of pumpkin bombs, and Peter grabs the masked man, asking, where's Osborn? Don't lie. My spider sense can pick it up, which actually, no, it doesn't. The man shouts that he doesn't know. All Osborn said was something about UBF. Bobby says that she's been speaking Mandarin for a while, and she has no idea what that means. Peter shouts, stating over and over, and then he says, UBF, the Uncle Ben Foundation, right where me and Harry are right now. Meanwhile, over at the charity event, Norman Osborn, wearing his new face, spots Aunt May and gets ready to make his move. But before he does, a woman asks, anything else, Mr. Osborn? Harry takes a piece of food and tells the waitress no thanks. It's actually
Always
Lyman.
spider. I never know which
Lyman.
way to go.
Norman grits
I always
his
go
teeth, realizing
downwards.
that his son is not using
Doing
his
it the right way
mother's
this
maiden
time,
name.
hopefully.
After everything, he cast aside the Osborn legacy, his birthright. A few buildings over, the cloaked woman from before grips her rifle, taking aim at Harry. Peter and Bobby spot what looks like a floating sniper rifle, so Peter swings down, kicking that woman. The gun goes off, and everyone at the event begins to run inside. The cloaked woman then runs behind Bobby, kicking her away, and Peter fires his web coil, sorting out the cloak tech on the woman. In a flash, the figure appears, and Peter asks, how are you alive? What's going on? And Silver Sable says what's going on as he just saved Norman Osborn. Back over at the event, the guests heard the gunshot and started running towards the exit. But for Harry, Norman tackles him to the ground, asking his son if he's been hit. Harry says he doesn't think so, but that voice in son, you can't be my father. You can't be back. Norman tells him, you may be a whiny little brat, but you will always be my boy, my firstborn, and Osborn. Now, if you'll excuse me, Daddy's got some work to do. Across the way, Peter asks what the heck is going on, and Sable fires her grappling gun, stating that she missed her shot, and now Osborn's getting away. As Peter and Bobby follow, Bobby says that Sable's alive again. You don't think that she's a clone, Peter? And Peter stops her, telling her, just don't. I can't do clones anymore. He swings down past the event, asking if Mrs. Parker is okay. And Harry shouts that they're all fine, but the one in the back on those bikes is, Peter tells him, I know, it's your father. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of this. With Peter leaving, Harry looks around and sees the man that Norman was speaking with and asks what business do they have together. The man says that he doesn't want to be mixed up in this. The guy had given him an invite to some expo. They can have it. Up ahead, Peter and the others chase after Norman, and Norman looks back, seeing Sable, stating that she must have been the ghost following him around the globe. She's supposed to be dead, and they're going to rectify that. As the Goblin soldiers open fire, Bobby radios into Nick that they need backup, and over the intercom, Nick tells her that a request is denied. And as Bobby asks why, he tells her that what he sees is a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent out of her jurisdiction in an international terrorist event who just fired at a charity event. China doesn't know that they're there, and therefore she cannot be a part of this. Copy? Bobby tries to explain, but Nick talks over her, telling her, copy? And Bobby sighs, copy. Peter looks back, asking, so there's not going to be any backup, is there? Bobby tells him, it's worse.
There's Spider-Man.
And she follows him. Sable manages to latch onto one of the flyers, kicking the man off, and as his body hits a neon sign, Peter asks, Sable says that he was wearing body armor, and the sign was only 12 feet from the roof. Peter then asks, so you're saying he's alive, right? Sable says, yeah. Sure. Back at the event, Harry takes the invite card and puts the web address into his webware, and he sees the Green Goblin logo loading. After a few seconds of connecting, a stream of Norman Osborn appears, and he tells everyone that he would like to welcome them to their members-only live stream at the Goblin Army Expo. Weapons of tomorrow, today! Both Peter and Sable start to close in on Norman as they fly into a still being built building. And Sable says that it seems a little too easy. As the two follow down the elevator shaft, Peter says, yeah, they're totally Admiral Akbaring this. It's a trap! Down below, outside of the dome, Norman tells the people that they're all about to witness the latest his weapons have against the amazing Spider-Man and the one and only Silver Sable. These new Goblin gliders will run on power cells that will last longer than the previous model, while providing a half. Peter shouts to Norman, shut up! I'm not some visual aid for your new product rollout. He webs onto one of the flyers, causing it to whip around and crash. And then he asks the crowd if he can get $1 on the busted scrap. $1. Two to the man on the pointy chin. Norman says, Spider-Man is always the fool. This presentation wasn't for the cycles, Countess, if you please. Countess Katrina. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the star of the show, the Kingslayer Mark I. Blue lights illuminate from the shadows, and the giant bipedal tank walks out, crushing the ground as it moves. Norman tells everyone that the Kingslayer walking tank comes both piloted and self-driving. Today we will watch as it overwhelms two superhuman combatants, one of whom is outfitted with top-of-the-line Parker tech, Spider-Man! The tank begins to fire at the two of them, and while they try to defend themselves, Peter shouts to Norman that he's just hiding from him, afraid to show his own face in public, afraid to go face-to-face with him like a coward. Norman tells the cameraman to cut the feed. We're done here. The tank will finish the job. Peter laughs, stating, "Ha ha, that struck a nerve," and Sable calls down to Katrina for what she's done to her people. She's gonna be next on her list. After being knocked to the ground, Sable says that her weapons and the Parker Industries technology isn't having much effect. So what now, Spider-Man? Peter looks down at the down flyer and he says that Norman mentioned new power cells and then he webs up the base of the tank. As he jumps away, he asks Sable if she's ever seen the movie Jaws before. She tells him yes, and then fires, hitting the power cell, causing a massive explosion, taking out the tank. As the smoke clears, Peter says, "Okay, now that that is over, spill it. How are you even alive?" She reloads her gun, telling him, "It doesn't matter. All that matters is that my demise made all of this possible. Those gliders, that tank, all of the weapons that the Goblin Army sells across the globe. They're all being made in Sincaria." Osborn and Katrina transformed their country into a war machine, enslaving the people to build for them. Peter tells him, "Well, things have changed. You help me bring Norman to justice and I will bankroll the entire operation." But while Peter loads up his jet with all of his equipment, Nick Fury tells his agents, "We have just confirmed that an American contractor, one with dealings with S.H.I.E.L.D., is about to invade the sovereign nation of Socaria. So from this point on, we are separating all..."
Just going to pause that there, guys, because I want to take a picture of this on my phone. Just for a quick thing, what I'm listening to is that story there, Amazing Spider-Man Worldwide to Death. But we'll still be listening to some more of this. I don't think I'm going to be colouring this one. I will be putting a slight bit of shade and adding in thicker lines in certain areas, but I don't think I want to colour this one in. I want to do this one, definitely I want to do this one digitally. So when I get that CPU again, I'll get around to doing that. But for now, let's take a picture of what we've drawn on my phone. So I can then take that picture, put it onto the PC, and digitize when I'm ready. There we go. Right. We can have that bit going on. We're pretty much there now, guys. Pretty much there.
Ties with Parker Industries. Now they are a threat, no different than AIM or Hydra, and our duty is to stop them. Understood? The agents all shout, "Sir, yes, sir!" And Nick asks again. Bobby says, "Sir, yes, sir." Later over at Castle Kharkov, the doctor begins to unwrap Norman's face, stating that the muscles in the face were not meant to. And Norman tells him, "Yes, I've heard it before. Now get on with it." Norman gets up from the chair to check the mirror, and Dragovic says that it's not his fault. He used all of his skull, and Norman throws back a canister, shooting out the gas, and he says, "I have no use for you anymore, right? That gas is the Goblin Serum, which for me, I'm 100% immune to. So this is all Norman Osborn, and this is going to make me far more dangerous." Katrina sees Norman walking out of the lab and asks, "How did it go?" He tells her that she's not going to want to go in there and asks for his latest face. How does it look? He steps out of the shadows, and all you can see is his disfigured, old, original face. Back with Peter and Sable, they ride the Parker jet over to Sincaria, and Peter says, "Look, we've got time to kill. How are you alive?" She sighs and tells him, "Fine. It was back when we were at Otto Octavius' underwater base. After you told me to leave, no, rather, when you ordered me to leave, I used the same stealth technology that I had used before while Rhino was holding me underwater. There was a moment when Rhino let go to check on me, and that's when I reached for my knife and stabbed him in the head. Because everyone thought I was dead, my enemies relaxed, and it made it easier to hunt them down. However, because of that absence, my countrymen feared my death. which allowed the Countess to rise in power. And thanks to her unholy alliance with Norman Osborn, Peter stops her, stating, "That's my part. I should have stopped Osborn a long time ago, but things are different." A little while later, as Peter's jet touches down, Nick asks for a status report because there should be enough combat vehicles to take on the Hulk. One of the agents says, "Or we could have been had." The jet's completely empty, sir. Nick waits for a moment and then screams for Bobby to come in. She radios back that he needs to check the top.
Using a
floor.
running out
Inside is
felt
going to
tip
find
here
her
just to add a
ID in her
little bit of
bag.
shade in
Consider this
certain
a
areas,
resignation from
like I have
S.H.I.E.L.D..
been all week.
And as she cuts the line, Bobby looks off in the distance and says, "Well, it was a nice career while it lasted." Seconds later, a second jet lands and Peter steps out stating, "Sure, when I do it, it's bad. But when Cap, Namor, and the Human Torch invade foreign lands, it's cool." He then turns back to Bobby, telling her, "I really appreciate this." And Bobby says she's worked with him long enough to know whatever he's doing it for the right reason. He looks at her, telling her, "Aw, you believe in me."
Oh, damn,
Bobby
sorry.
tells him, "All right, now you're making it weird." Sable introduces her new Wild Pack and says that these people are from all over, each affected by the things that Norman and Katrina have done. Tango asks Peter if these things come with instructions, and then he says that he's just kidding. If it dries, flies, or shoots, they will make it work. The Wild Pack has this. Peter points to Tango, stating, "Okay, rule 1. I'm the only guy here that cracks jokes. Try that again, and I'm going to take my toys and going home." From there, the group moves out, and they quickly take down one of the munition factories. Peter calls out to Norman that he knows he's watching this. They could save everyone some time if they just cut to the chase and fight it out. And Norman tells them that he won't be goaded so easily. It's time for the main forces to move. From the woods, more of the Kingslayers step out while the ground soldiers begin to move into position. Bobby leads the group with the flyers into the air while Peter stays in the ground, telling the civilians that they are here to save them. And some of the people ask, "Why should we trust you? You could be worse." Peter asks, "Did you start getting the Daily Bugle out here? I'm the good guy. I'm Spider-Man." Sable pushes Peter aside and tells everyone that she is the proud daughter of these lands, Sublin Novia, sworn protector of the realm. She begs forgiveness for her long absence, and she will make Symkaria free again. The crowd begins to rally behind Sable, and Peter says, "Well, that was pretty awesome." When the civilians get clear, Peter and Sable make their way into the thick of the fight, helping push back the Goblin army. Over at the castle, Norman watches and says, "This has gone on far too long. It is time to roll out the big ticket item." Back in the battlefield, the soldiers begin to jump out of the toppled tanks. They begin to run over to the ground, kicking Peter off of his bike. One of the soldiers holds him down and begins to laugh, and Peter flips him over, asking, "What's so funny?" while taking off his mask. He looks and sees that these men are not just suits. They're full-on goblins. Osborn has been changing them. As Peter learns the truth of Norman's plan, Norman himself begins to ready his final weapon, a missile full of goblin serum pointed straight at a nearby town. Just then, everyone stops as they hear Norman's missile being launched, and Peter says, "They're going to gas their own people." Bobby takes to the air, stating that she's already way ahead of him on this. And Sable begins giving orders to the Wild Pack for those with flyers to assist Mockingbird. The remaining help evacuate the rest of the city. Peter tells her, "Hang on, there's only one person who should be calling the shots here." And Sable runs on ahead, telling him, "Yeah, in her homeland, it will be her." While the Wild Pack provides Bobby with cover fire, she radios back to S.H.I.E.L.D. that they are needed ASAP. Things have escalated into an international incident. Nick tells her, "Nuh-uh, you don't get to do this. You resigned." She shouts that they fired a missile at civilians. And as Nick asks, "Where are you?" she screams, "Where do you think?" Moments later, Peter and Sable break into the castle control room, and Sable tells Katrina that her reign is over. Juliet then radios in that they have a problem. The civilians are fighting back to stay, and Katrina says that it looks like she still rules. Sable then grabs a sword from the wall, telling her that she challenges her in the true name of Symkaria. Katrina grabs the other sword, telling her that she accepts. She has been trained to be the best swordsman in all of York. And Peter shouts, "We really don't have time for these royal shenanigans." And Sable tells her to go find Osborn. That's an order. He webs off, asking, "Where have I heard that before? Oh, wait, it was when you almost died. Wait, that turned out pretty good. So never mind. Let's go." Once again, Peter follows his spider sense to where the danger is coming from. And he turns the corner, punching Goblin Dragovic. He looks at him and says, "You're not the goblin that I was looking for." And Norman holds out a switch, telling him, "Stop right there, or I'm going to press the trigger and detonate a missile." Peter tells him, "Okay, can we talk about your face now? Because, blah, what happened to your face?" Norman tells him, "No jokes. Before you may have rattled me, but right now you wouldn't want me to be rattled." Peter tells him, "All right, no jokes.
I'm
Just
done.
hand over the trigger. Without your goblin form, I've got you beat." And Norman tells him that's true, but you'll have to catch me first. And he begins to run down the hallway. Peter gives chase with his spider sense going off and the gas beginning to pour into the room. As he continues to charge through, he jumps on the wall to stick, but he doesn't stick. And Norman laughs, telling him, "Ha ha ha ha, that one should be familiar." And Peter gets back up, telling him, "Different chemicals inhibiting different powers. You're sure going through a lot here, so why?" And Norman shouts, "Why do you think? To put us on equal footing, of course. Here we are, neither goblin nor spider, man to man. Peter throws up his arms, telling him, it's not over. I've still got some tricks up my sleeves. Web shooters, cartridge set. Norman flips another switch, and electricity shoots out into him, shorting out the web shooters. And then Norman says, there was never any remote detonator. This switch is just for the electromagnetic pulse, so say goodbye to your pathetic spider armor. As Peter's lens is distorted, he pulls them out. Norman takes off his coat, telling him, you're the one who made this personal. I was in a different corner of the world, minding my own business, when someone got that itch. You could have moved on. Honestly, what have I ever done to you? Peter thinks back to the death of Gwen Stacy, and then he gets back up, tackling Norman out the window. Over above the city, Bobby shouts out that she disabled the explosive device, but the gas globes will shatter. Foxtrot asks what they can do, and Bobby tells them that they still have spider planes. Do something spidery. Back outside of the castle, Norman gets back up, punching Peter over and over, telling him that they are seconds away from his bomb going off. He will keep him here so the great Spider-Man gets infected and becomes a goblin. But as Norman waits, he doesn't hear anything. Over the city, the missile hangs suspended by a giant web, and Foxtrot asks if that is spidery enough. Peter then grabs a rock and bashes it across Norman's head, telling him, I got amazing friends. Also, I got this rock. While Peter begins to beat Norman with a rock, they stop when they hear the shield jets fly overhead. Norman takes the chance to escape, and Peter shouts, yeah, you better run, because yeah. And then he falls over in the snow. He closes his eyes, and as he opens them again, he sees Bobby, and he asks, how long has it been? She tells him a couple of hours, and from the looks of him, they did much better with their things. Nick walks over, asking Peter, what does he have to say for himself? And Peter tells him, you're welcome. Come on, Osborn was a threat that you should have looked into. The world's a better place because of Parker Industries. And Nick stops him, telling him, hell no. You just took it upon yourselves to overthrow a foreign government. S.H.I.E.L.D. wants nothing to do with it. In fact, from here on out, S.H.I.E.L.D. will have nothing to do with Parker Industries. However, later in the ocean, Norman rides a boat, stating, thankfully, he kept a hidden bank account. He can always rebuild, but not like this. It's time for him to let him out. His real face. They're gonna need his madness. The only true Osborn identity that matters. The Green Goblin must live again. As a man drives by the Auto Empire, his passenger says that this will be fine. He can drop him off here. The passenger asks to be sure. All that's here is an old junkyard. He's not even wearing shoes. Might get tetanus or something. The passenger tells the driver that he doesn't really need to worry about that. He's in excellent shape, and in time, he shall be rewarded. The driver says, don't worry about it. This is just on the way. The man says, no, he'll see. Great changes are coming to this world, and on that day, you will be favored. The driver pulls away, and the man easily jumps over the gates and says this proto-clone is better than anything Jackal could have designed because he perfected it. The man looks at his reflection, and then he says that this face is a marked improvement as well. A synthetic spider clone with his own DNA. There's no denying the stronger, more prominent features of Otto Octavius in this clone of Peter Parker. From the Clone Conspiracy. That is a storyline that we may cover eventually, but it wasn't the greatest storyline. The results of it basically are Otto Octavius got a new body, a proto-clone of Peter Parker. Otto continues to walk as a set of crushed cars are lifted into the air, revealing an underground facility. As he steps in, the computer welcomes him, and he tells it to play back any recent news regarding Parker Industries. The computer starts to play several news stations talking about the recent decline in Parker Industries stock. And Otto shouts, what are you doing to my company? Once again, for those of you guys who don't know, Otto Octavius was in the original Peter Parker's body in Superior Spider-Man. He was actually Peter Parker, and using his intelligence, he created Parker Industries before Peter Parker came back, taking his body back and taking over the company. Everything that Peter Parker has right now, all of his money, all of his technology, is because Otto Octavius took over his body. And then when Peter took his body back, Otto Octavius was gone. I know this whole thing is confusing, but let me just break it bare bones for you. Otto Octavius created Parker Industries and is now in a clone of Peter Parker. Otto slams his fist down, and then he notices that the computer is clean. Too clean. Suddenly, Otto's octopus sense tingles, and the Hydra agents charge out shouting, Hail Hydra! Identify yourself, intruder! Otto asks, intruder? Of all of the unmitigated gall! As the agents open fire, Otto effortlessly jumps and weaves through the blast, grabbing onto each agent by their head. Using his newfound strength, Otto throws the agents into each other, and another group jumps out, tackling Otto to the ground. And one says that if he can walk on the walls, he must be a friend of the spiders. Otto launches all of the agents off of him, shouting, Fools! I will forever be one singular being. I am Otto Octavius! Soon the agents begin screaming as a wall of mechanical arms reach out, grabbing and strangling them. And Otto tells them that this is my base, and I am always armed. But still, I can't stay here. Hydra are worse than any vermin infestation. They know this location. With their superior numbers, they'll keep coming, and there will be no end to them. A voice then says, That is true, Doctor. But that could be used to your advantage. As Otto turns, he sees Arnhem Zola, the so-called supreme scientist of Hydra. Otto demands that he explain himself, and Arnim says that it is true that Hydra will keep sending men to this base, and if you wish, they could work for you. Whether you're meant to or not, you passed Hydra's first step by defeating the group's leader. You are the best candidate for his replacement. Otto then asks, why would I do that? And Arnim tells him, it's because we share the same goal, the destruction of Parker Industries. Arnim extends a hand and Otto shakes it, telling him, yes, we will work together for now. And now, with Hydra's resources, Otto begins to build a new suit, one with unparalleled designs made by none other than himself. And when the time comes, Otto begins to put on his new suit, and as he pulls down the mask, he says that he's back. Otto Octavius, the superior octopus. Over in a studio in London, Anne-Marie tells Peter to just remember, this interview is about one thing, damage control. Parker Industries is currently facing a zillion lawsuits, and Peter Parker has a reputation of being flaky. He asks how, and Anne-Marie says that
He asked how. He said, I use this pen, and I also just use this pen. So we've only actually used 2 pens today, guys. Normally I'd use like 3 or 4. Maybe I'll put a bit of colour in. I really don't think I need to put colour in this one, as we're only working with Inktober and ink and black ink today. Yeah, I thought it was going to turn out really, really badly when I was getting halfway through, but it's actually turned out pretty good. I'm going to blow my own trumpet. But what do you think, guys? If you have enjoyed today's stories and you have enjoyed today's drawing and you think you can have a go yourself, let me know over on Instagram. Show me your pictures. What have you had a go at? What have you done for swing for the day, for the word of the day on Inktober, day 9? Still loads more days to go because we're going to go throughout the month, every single day. This is a challenge that I did not expect to get so tired doing. But yeah, I mean, I'm not tired to not want to do it, but just, well, it's a big challenge every single day doing a picture in ink pen, normally only using my 7.0 Uniball, and then today we shaded with our double-sided really crap felt tip pen that's running out. Because it's running out, we get to use it as shade and instead of our thick black line. So yeah, hopefully you've learned a little bit. Maybe you already know better than me. I know a couple of people have been leaving me messages. I do appreciate every message that everybody gives me. And yeah, I'll see you guys in tomorrow's one. If not, I'll be live tonight for hopefully the end of Witness Wednesdays. Then replace it with another puzzle game next week. But we'll find out whether I'll finish it or not. We'll be hopefully joined by Charcoal Dragon again tonight. And I'll be playing it all in PSVR. If you want to check out how I created again the polymer clay, and I've also made one of these in VR. So go and check them out, guys, in the Creation Station playlist, and a load more in the Spider-Man content playlists. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Click the links that will appear if you're watching back, and I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.